the majority of American people do not want it enforced and are resisting its enforcement. That being so, the orderly thing to do under our form of government is to abolish a law which cannot be enforced, a law which the people of the country do not want enforced. Prohibition cannot be enforced for the simple reason that the majority of American people do not want it enforced and are resisting its enforcement. That being so, the orderly thing to do under our form of government is to abolish a law which cannot be enforced, a law which the people of the country do not want enforced. Prohibition cannot be enforced for the simple reason that the majority of American people do not want it enforced and are resisting its enforcement. That being so, the orderly thing to do under our form of government is to abolish a law which cannot be enforced, a law which the people of the country do not want enforced. Prohibition cannot be enforced for the simple reason that the majority of American people do not want it enforced and are resisting its enforcement. That being so, the orderly thing to do under our form of government is to abolish a law which cannot be enforced, a law which the people of the country do not want enforced.
Recording live from KCDI Studios, this is CKZ blasting anyone or anything making us angry. We bring critical thinking, skepticism, and ridicule to anything that makes the news or our purview. It's political, it's skeptical, it's triggering, and we are not holding anything back. I am your host, Kent Williams, along with my favorite host, Caitlin B. Genuine. Ho ho, pun, and Papa Zachman Worf. Thanks for joining the show. Welcome back, season 2. Woo woo.
Season 2.
We got here.
Popular enough to be asked to do it again. So here we are. We've got a great guest tonight. It's gonna be fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
Absolutely.
Caitlin, what's
Well, welcome back. It's season 2 of CKZ, and if you've joined us before, thank you for your time and feedback. And welcome if you're new here. Be sure to like and follow, subscribe, share, and let us know your thoughts as we carry on, preferably in the form of as many comments and reacts to other comments as you can. Facebook always does a major crackdown on visibility during election cycles. They figure out ways to throttle. So we don't even mind if you sad or angry face us either. If you want to keep seeing us on your timeline, interaction is key.
Absolutely.
Guys, we're back. I am the Zach Man. I'm unfiltered. I'm uncensored. I'm unapologetic. We're doing this for season 2. We've got a great show for you guys today. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, ring the bell, bang your head, praise the Lord, whatever it might be. Enjoy the show tonight, guys. We've got a great guest. We've got some great events lined out. I'm excited to be here. I can't believe we're doing this again.
Yeah, I know. It's been a long time. We've been gone a little over a month. We promised a month, and a lot of that was I went on vacation, and Zach had some stuff go on. Zach, you want to talk about what prevented you from being here last week?
I had surgery last Wednesday. I had some hip surgery done. It's called a bone decompression is what they did. They drilled some holes into my hip joint and put some bone marrow on there and hoping it's going to regrow. And so, I'm crutch bound. I've never in my life had anything like this done. Never been a patient of a hospital. Never stitched. Never broke a bone. Never a cavity. I dove right into everything. It all caught up to me at once. I became a grandpa, and I had hip surgery all in a month.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
it's Troy's fault. If you follow our page, and we were on the roll with Troy memes, and that's slowed down, and that's because Zach has had surgery. Zach is the meme man, and we got to give it up to him and to a few of our fans that watch the show as well that have dropped a few of those by. So if you're in the business of making memes, send us some. We'd love to post them up.
Oh, I didn't forget about you, Troy.
No, we haven't. No, we'll be back.
Still coming.
So, we have a great month coming up for you guys before the midterm elections, just around the corner in November. Next week, we have candidate for Attorney General Chris Mann and running for Finney County Commissioner District 5, Elva Madrid, stopping by. Tonight, we're especially excited about our guest, Mark Holland. He'll be on here in just a bit. He is running against Jerry Moran for U.S. Senate. And, absolutely. So we're glad to talk to him and extremely thankful for him dropping by. But what's coming up this week, Zach? What's going on around Garden City?
So we got Maze of Nightmares going on. Starts at 9 on Fridays and Saturdays throughout October, which we're halfway through, but we still want you to get in there and check it out. I thought about posting some videos to share with it. I do have a graphic in there for them, but it looks really cool. It looks like they worked really hard on it. I didn't want to put the video up because we got in trouble for videos last time, so
I don't think Wards would be so hard on us. I don't know, but
Is this outside so that they circumvent the rule about a sprinkler system? Are they outside? Is this like an outside maze?
Oh,
I don't know.
I don't know.
It looks like they have a bunch of crates set up into a maze. So, I think it's in the back area of Wards there. Tickets are $25 at the door, $20 in advance, cash only in advance in Wards during business hours. It's going to run from like 9 to 1 a.m. is when they'll quit taking new people. So that's a long time. Go check it out.
It's actually at the Sons of Fun paintball arena.
No, that's a different one.
No, this is
at Wards Garden Center.
Well, this is the pre-sale. There's where you get your tickets. This is Saints of Fun. So I'm curious if they combined forces there because Wards has always had a haunted house.
Something. Yeah, I guess that's why I just assumed it was they were selling at Wards, and I just assumed it was in the back. That Jenny Barker Road, though, you're right, that address isn't Ward's address.
No, that's Sons of Paintball, so that's going to be awesome. That's going to be outside, set up at a paintball arena. great time. And if that's a little too scary for you and the kids, how about Saturday night horror night at the Finney County Public Library starting at 6 p.m. Join friends at the library for an evening with spooky movies on Saturdays starting in October. Admission is free and snacks will be available for purchase. It's every Saturday. This Saturday's movie is His House, rated PG-13.
Boo at the Zoo is October 22nd at 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. All gates are open from 4 to 8. So the Lee Richardson Zoo will be closed all day October 22nd before the event for preparations. Buy your general admission tickets early at the discount price of $5 per person at Blue Fox Boutique, El Remedio Market, Ward's Garden Center, and Lee Richardson Zoo. Tickets may also be purchased online at www.folrz.org until noon Friday, October 14th to ensure delivery. General admission at the gate is $10 per person.
Moonlit Madness is Thursday, October 27th, 5 to 8. Downtown businesses will be open late and set up for the spooky occasion. Experience downtown Garden City on the spookiest month of the year.
That sounds fun.
I love October. Halloween extravaganza, October 29th, starting at 2 p.m. Join friends at the library for games and treats while supplies last. No sign up necessary. All library activities and events are free.
And Kansas Cruisers Trunk or Treat, October 29th at 5 p.m. will be in downtown Garden City this year for a ghoulishly good time. There will be 3 blocks of treat stops. The entrance will be at Main and Pine Street. So that's going to be just south of, or north of Stevens Park, correct? I think so.
Yeah,
I highly recommend
Stevens Park.
Trunk or treat, like
any
trunk or treat style thing that you can go to in your area. Highly recommend. It's really cool. Everybody's, in my experience, very kind, and you get one area, so you don't have to visit all the blocks, and you get a bag of goodies.
I definitely encourage people to go check out the entertainment, the Finney County Entertainment. Who manages all that? I'm trying to remember.
Finney County Downtown Garden City, Finney County Convention and Tourism.
Convention and Tourism.
Yeah.
They have a calendar on there, and there's so many events going on in October. So definitely go check them all out.
We love autumn.
Yeah, and if you are a nonprofit or a business that would like for us to talk about your upcoming event, or business, let us know. Hit us up on Facebook. You know us individually. Let us know, and we'll work something out and get something for you. Nonprofits, we'll talk about your fundraiser benefit, no cost to you, and we really want to push those things out there. So lots of good things going on this weekend, guys. It's Halloween. Everybody loves fall, right?
It's a short year. You gotta don't blink.
I was just in California at Disneyland, and they had everything was done at Disney, pumpkin themed and Halloween and ghoulish and the rides and things. So that was so amazing, guys. The first we walk in, the first thing we see is this huge goofy pumpkin up in a clock tower, just chilling by himself with the zero. It was.
That's great.
I knew it was on when I saw that. You know what I mean? But anyway, so yeah,
we've been out for a month. Let's dive right into it. We got a cool guest.
Yeah, we got a great guest, guys. So as we know, the midterm election is less than a month away, and it's a big one. Elections have consequences, and when we head to the ballot, we'll have choices on constitutional amendments, state Supreme Court justices, attorney general, state senator, state House of Reps, state secretary, governor, and more. Over the next few weeks, we're going to dive in to many of the ballot amendments and those seeking to win a seat in our government. we're appreciative to the campaigns of Chris Mann and Attorney General. He's running for Attorney General, and Elva Madrid, Fox County, guys. I'm nervous or something. I don't know. We haven't been on the air in a while. I gotta get it all out. I suppose. I'm sorry, I'm butchering it. Elva Madrid, Finney County Commissioner, District 5, as guests later this month. Tonight, we begin with Reverend Mark Holland. Reverend Holland is seeking to beat career politician and current Kansas U.S. Senator Gary Moran to represent the people of Kansas and Washington, D.C. in the U.S. Senate. Reverend Holland, we want to welcome and thank you for taking time to be here and visiting with us and our audience.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here. I appreciate the invitation.
Yay. Very excited to have you. So for those of us who are unfamiliar with Reverend Mark Holland, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, like where you're from, what you do, about some of your family?
Sure. All right. Well, thank you. I'm Mark Holland. I'm the 4th generation Kansan in Wyandotte County, 3rd generation United Methodist pastor here. I grew up in Kansas City and Topeka. I do tell folks when I'm out in Garden City that I did have a Southwest Kansas address for a short time. Now it was Southwest 34th Street in Topeka. I did have Southwest and Kansas on the same envelope, right? That's what I got. But I grew up in Kansas City. I never thought it was fair that my dad was the preacher at my church and my mom was the teacher at my school. But I did learn that you just should tell the truth early because it's coming out anyway. So get it over with. But grew up in a house that was committed to serving people. Went off to college in Dallas and seminary in Denver, and then came back and served in 2 small communities, Wathena and Elwood, on the opposite corner from where you all are. It's the part of Kansas that keeps us from being a rectangle. So I served in the far northeast corner. And
it's the river, Missouri River.
Is.
Right.
I served in 2 communities that are the combined population was smaller than the high school I'd attended. Mm-hmm. And, I just learned that we all want the same thing. We all want meaningful work. We all want opportunity for our kids. We all want to live in a community we're proud of. And we could learn a lot in Washington, D.C. That what tears us apart is a lot smaller than what's holding us together. What's holding us together is a lot more important. I do have 4 kids. They're 24, 21, 17, and 16. They're all doing their thing. And I have, I live in Kansas City, Kansas. I served in my last church for 19 years at Trinity United Methodist in Kansas City, Kansas. And while I was there, I ran for office. I served in the unified government. I ran as county commissioner. Mm-hmm. And I had no idea what I was doing. So anyone listening, if you're thinking about running, the best way to run is not know what you're doing, because if you knew too much, you probably might not do it. But one of the things I learned is you should learn the difference between in district and at large. Mm-hmm. I thought I was running in an area this big, and I was running countywide.
Yeah.
But it took me only 2 or 3 weeks to figure that out. But I won that race by 35 votes out of 13,000 cast. I called a mandate of the people. Am I right?
Yeah.
But
that's a lot.
I was reelected 4 years later, and then I was elected the mayor of Kansas City, Kansas, the 3rd largest city in our state. And here's an interesting factoid that I've learned that people outside of Kansas City kind of conflate Wyandotte and Johnson counties as just kind of the Kansas City area, right? Wyandotte County is a super diverse community. We have no ethnic majority. It's 40% white, 30% Latino, 26% African American. We have about 75 different languages spoken in our public schools. We're really a great eclectic mix of the whole world right here in Kansas City, Kansas. So it's a great city to be in, a great place to raise a family.
That's,
it's almost exactly like that here.
Our diversity is something that we're really proud of here in Garden City. We speak something. Last I knew it was
to chime in on how important that is.
29 different languages at 75
in the high school.
I thought, there's a lot there, and we want to dive in a little bit more to what you've done in the past, Mark, and your family and things. And you said something that was provocative to us. Running a campaign obviously takes a toll on his family. We want to talk a little bit about that. What about your upbringing prepared you specifically for your family, where you are today, And we understand you, as you said, your father was a preacher at your church and your mother was a teacher at your school. Can you also explain why you didn't think that was fair?
Because I was always busted. That's why it wasn't fair.
Sure.
I can imagine
trouble in the children's choir. They just tell them to stop. I get in trouble in the children's choir, and I get carted out of the sanctuary by one arm. From my mom. And at school, I'd get set out in the hall because here's the thing: I always had funny things to say, and some teachers didn't know I was funny. And so I would try to explain how funny something was, and I'd get set out in the hall, and invariably my mom's class would go to the drinking fountain. They'd come back and say, Holland, Mark's out in the hall again, and can just tone it down. So, but I'll tell you the worst story. This is the worst story of my mom at the school. So it was freezing cold. We're out on the playground. It's freezing cold, and we had this game, this stupid game where we're trying to, we're bored. We're kids, right? So we had a basketball, and we're trying to drop kick the basketball into the hoop from midcourt, right?
Sure. Who hasn't tried that?
It was very unlikely to happen, but we're out there doing it, giving it our best, our fourth grade best. And my mom was on recess duty, and I went ahead and kicked the ball, and I watched it. It totally missed the whole backboard. It missed everything, but it went right over, and it clocked my mom in the side of the head and laid her out on the playground. True story. Laid her out on the playground, and her earring it hit her earring, and it cut her neck. So she was bleeding.
Oh.
And I'm like,
that.
My friends are like, you shouldn't even go home, man. Your dad's going to kill you.
Oh, no, yeah.
So I cart my mom into the nurse's station, and then the principal comes and gets me. I'm like, man, I'm dead. My mom's dead. I killed my mom in elementary school, which has got to look bad. So they took me back. My mom was so kind. She's like, Mark, I know you didn't do it on purpose, but we're not going to kick the basketball anymore at recess.
We're kickball.
I'll never kick a basketball. So anyway, that was my worst story of growing up with my mom as a teacher at my school. I laid her out on the playground.
So fast forward to your college years then. What did you end up studying? What did you choose for a career path?
So I went down. I heard the call to ministry when I was 14. I was in a church meeting, which usually people lose their religion in church meetings. I actually heard my call to ministry there, and heard the call. So I went through high school planning to be a pastor, and I went to Southern Methodist University in Dallas and studied. And the nice thing was I knew I was going to seminary, so all I had to do was get a degree in anything. So it felt like I took 4 years of electives. So I studied anthropology and philosophy. So I have a dual degree in anthropology and philosophy, which was great. In the anthropology, I got to do an archaeology dig for a summer in Mexico, which was great.
Their architecture is amazing.
Yeah, the Mayan Mesoamerican archaeology was my focus, and studying the Mayan ruins and doing an archaeology dig there was really magical. So had a great experience. So I felt like I took 4 years of electives. I just enjoyed my college time because I knew I was headed to graduate school.
Yeah. What about the experiences from running in local elections? I'm sorry, Mark. We're a little edgy tonight. We haven't been on the air in a while.
No, it's all good. Well, I've been talking all week. So
I'm sure. What do you do for pressure when you're going in front of people in public speaking? What methods do you take to calm down and ease your nerves so you don't stumble over words?
It's funny. The biggest thing for me, I just have to be rested.
I
actually had an event in Lawrence. I had an event in Lawrence, Sunday. And I'd had like 3 events on Saturday, 3 events on Friday. I'd been driving all over the state, and it kind of caught up with me. And so I stood up and I started to speak, and I just lost my train of thought completely. I'm just standing there thinking, everybody's sitting there looking at me, and I'm totally like speechless. And so it happened twice in that message, and I'm like, I'm just tired. I apologize. And so I had to kind of push through. But for me, I've got to get plenty of sleep and be rested, and then I'm ready to talk.
Sure.
So and we have a great message right now. I mean, that's the thing. If you have, that's what I love about preaching. If you're telling a good story, if you're telling a great message, which hopefully you're doing when you're preaching, it comes easily. And the message we have right now in Kansas and politically, we have great opportunities. So it's fun to talk about. And I heard this great preacher gave this, I go to all these seminars, these speaking seminars. And that's what pastors do. If you wonder what a pastor does, it's not Sunday, they go to seminars. But this one guy said the best advice he could give about preaching or speaking publicly is he said, if you're not enjoying what you're saying, no one else will.
Sure.
If you're nervous, the whole crowd's nervous, right?
Absolutely.
If you're down, you're going to bring down the whole crowd. Yeah. And I thought that was really good advice. If you're excited about your topic, it's like you guys on the show, right? When you're excited about your topic, people want to tune in and they get excited too. And if you're like, yeah, we have a crappy show for you this week, and, I don't know why we're even here.
We plan to bomb.
I mean, who's tuning into that, right?
That's what the late night host always says. It's going to be a great show tonight. It's never, tonight's show is going to be all right, but we're here.
Fingers crossed.
It in tonight. Thanks for joining us.
So, okay, let's dive into some nitty gritty. Jerry Moran voted against the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. What did that vote mean for Kansas families and individuals?
Well, this is a big piece. I mean, it was a bipartisan. First of all, it was bipartisan. It was last fall. It was a bipartisan piece. He actually helped negotiate it. He was on the negotiating team for the Republicans. And one tweet from Trump, and he folded up like a lawn chair at a church picnic and voted against it. And here's what's crazy: the Democrats and moderate Republicans all voted for it because this is pavement, folks. I mean, this is the thing I say all the time from being mayor. There's no Democrat or Republican way to pave a street. We have to work with people with whom we disagree to get the job done. People are counting on us to get the job done. Right. And he decided to play partisan politics instead of actually doing this. And so he harms our infrastructure. It included rural broadband, and not just rural, but urban broadband, which is critical to development and redevelopment of our rural areas. Yeah. And for families and businesses, I mean, how do you do a show? You couldn't do your show in Garden City without broadband. So it's just ridiculous. And then but the other side of that is not just that it hurts the economic development, but it hurts families. I mean, families are struggling right now. Inflation's high, gas prices are high, people are struggling, and infrastructure jobs are real jobs with real wages. And I say it this way: I don't want the government to put food on your table. I want you to put food on your table. And the only way you can do that is to have a real job, and then to have so you can look at your kids with dignity. Everyone deserves the dignity of good work. People want to work. They want to provide for their family. And if you're voting against real jobs and real wages, it's just not fair. The other piece, families want to stay home. Sometimes they want one of the spouses to stay home with the kiddos, right? At least when they're little. Now, I'll be honest, I tried that, and I was ready to run out of that house in a minute. God bless everybody who wants to stay home with the little ones. It's hard work, man. It's the hardest work I've ever done in my life.
Absolutely.
So it's real, and if you want your spouse to stay home, you've got to have a wage that can cover the whole family.
Right.
Yeah. And if the minimum wage is Jerry Moran's minimum wage, which is $7.25 an hour, it's been that way since 2009. He's never voted to increase it. Your spouse isn't going to have one of those jobs. Your spouse is going to have two. And that's the part that, as a pastor, as a mayor, as a dad, I want people to have real jobs. I want folks to have jobs that they can be proud of, that are going to bring home a wage, that they can have something. Because true liberty, you want to talk about liberty, true liberty is deciding what to do with the money that's left over at the end of the month. And too many Kansans don't have money left over at the end of the month. And it ties people into a box. So that's the key to this infrastructure bill. It's not just that particular bill. It's the whole mentality that we're not supporting Kansans, we're not supporting wages, we're not supporting families. That's why it's offensive to me that he voted against that.
Something that bothers me though too is we see the memes and people talk a lot about people just don't want to work anymore. And from my observation, it's the good paying jobs are all full. Those aren't out there. As available as your lower income entry level $7.25 an hour jobs. How do we get that message across to those that say, people just don't want to work anymore? And how do we explain also that with broadband, the working from home, how important that's become?
That's right. No, that's right. No, this is it. I mean, it's difficult to attract and retain families to communities that don't have the amenities.
Yep,
It's
absolutely.
difficult to attract and retain businesses from communities that don't have amenities. You can't run a business without broadband these days. I don't know what kind of business you're running, but even in your accounting software, it's just going to take you an extra hour if you don't have the tools. Broadband is infrastructure.
It's a
It's no
utility at
different
this
than
point. We just don't
electricity and
call it that.
water.
Exactly, it is, and
Straight utility.
hospitals, the need for that, for the machines that they use, the information that they need to have telecommunications with specialists and other communities with things that that are going on in our own homes, life watching. It's a huge aspect to our health overall in
and
today's
just
society.
telehealth, for a lot of folks who don't have mobility issues, to be able to see a doctor. Look at the quality of the stream. I mean, if you could see a doctor like this,
Mhm.
to get health advice, to talk to a nurse,
Mhm.
there's a lot of power in that we're just isolating people. So yeah,
Right.
I think that's a huge component to the economic development of our communities, and it's just forward looking. It's and Kent, you asked another part of that question that I'm blanking on. You had it at the beginning before broadband.
How do we respond if people don't want to work?
Oh yeah, doesn't want to work? Look, I don't know these people. I don't know the people who don't want to work.
I was gonna say we're a family that's just like you're describing. So I stay at home with our daughters, and our so my husband had to basically like circumvent the exact situation you're describing, and worked for months, like over 100 applications and finally like started focusing on remote work and got a job in that avenue. And so yeah, we absolutely have to have the internet. And he had to do that specifically because not only, I mean, he was offered a position and tried to negotiate the salary. It was incredibly unlivable, and so it was insulting to be offered that.
That's right.
And yeah, I mean, he is he's got
Well,
he's
and
an
something
educated
Brian-
person. That's what they say. Like make sure that you have a degree so that you can have more money.
And he does. He has that degree, and that was
Yeah.
something he ran into, applying jobs out here on the high plains for what his degree is, and it's a good degree. It's in engineering, sound engineering, and we need that aspect. We need those jobs, but he was able. What I really like about what he is doing too, is he is getting a job that he would not get the money for out here in our area, but he's able to stay in our area and live comfortably because of the remote job that he has.
And I think that's the big piece. People want to work. People want meaningful work. People want dignity. People want the no. I don't know the person that wants a handout. And maybe you can find someone you'll put a camera in their face and they'll tell you they just want people to give them whatever they want. That's not most people, and that's not the people I know. It's not the people of Kansas. I mean, people want to work. They want to have the pride. There's nothing like it to see someone. You get a new job. It's a huge uplift, and having access to healthcare to keep people in jobs. A lot of people who aren't working are not working because they have health issues, and the number one cause of bankruptcy in America, of personal bankruptcy, the number one cause is unpaid medical bills. We need to give. Zach just had surgery. I pray you had health insurance, because what you described sounded expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The billing department hasn't gotten to me yet, but we'll soon know.
That's a great segue into our next question.
He's still in the honeymoon phase.
No, that's right. Yeah, they haven't gotten all to them. But I'm telling you, this is the piece. People don't want to work for nothing. And if you're making, if you go to a job, they offer you $7.25. They're only giving you 30 hours a week, 25 to 30 hours a week, because they don't want to trigger benefits, right? And then you got to get a second one of those jobs, and you don't have health insurance. You're working too many hours. You're not home with your family. You're not giving your best to your kids. You're not giving your best to your partner. You're not giving your best to yourself. People drop out of that workforce, right? Because it's burning people up, and they're not making any money. People want to make a real living, and that's the piece that I think is about dignity.
If anything, people in the service sector learned during the pandemic that their job it can be gone like that.
That's right.
And they were thrown into a predicament where they had to find new ways to make money. And so in a year, 2 years later, when you start opening those things back up or giving them opportunities again, they're like, bro, I've already figured it out. I don't need you anymore.
That's right.
And,
Well, and I've not been to a county in Kansas that doesn't have a need for workers.
Right.
You know, there's a need for workers right now across Kansas, across our country, and they're in, a lot of the jobs are in service industry that pay less. But this is so this that's why I'm a union Democrat, right? I believe in a livable wage. I believe in the collective bargaining. I believe in people having a right to improve their condition and make their work worthwhile. So yeah, it's a tough conversation. It's a tough environment. But we've got to have someone in the U.S. Senate who's advocating for families and not just advocating for shortcuts. And I think right now there's a lot of shortcuts going on in government and not a lot of forward thinking.
Absolutely.
And that's
so. Moran has also voted against capping insulin and Medicare prescription negotiation. What plans do you have to protect our seniors?
Well, this is this is crazy. I mean, it's capitalism 101. The largest buyer negotiates the lowest price. That's how capitalism works. Jerry Moran voted against capitalism in favor of pharmaceutical companies to jack up the prices on who? On our seniors, on grandma and grandpa. I mean, this is what's outrageous. This is how is it that you're voting against the capitalist model where the government should be able to buy for our seniors lower cost and pass that savings on to our seniors? Why are we valuing pharmaceutical company profits? That's indescribable. And all of us know someone, friends or family, who are insulin dependent. Not capping that. If you're insulin dependent and you don't have insulin, you're not working, right? Your health is going straight downhill.
You're going to die.
And you're going to die. That's exactly right. And this is, people say, oh, this is socialism. This isn't socialism, friends. This is smart capitalism. Giving people access to affordable health care that covers the needs so people can stay in the workforce, take care of their families, take care of their kids. That's key. Every person that's sick, and it's not just physical health. We have a mental health crisis going on right now. And Jerry Moran voted against access to mental health care. I don't get it. I mean, how do you vote against access to mental health care repeatedly when it's a crisis that we have? Most people who are just choosing not, if anybody's choosing not to work, depression's real, anxiety is real. And there's medication to treat that. There's services that treat that. And we have to take that as seriously as a broken leg. Like Absolutely. If you have a broken leg, everyone says, oh, you have a broken leg. It's like a culturally acceptable broken leg. Well, look, depression should be culturally acceptable because it's a chemical situation that can be dealt with. Anxiety should be culturally acceptable the same way because it's just different chemistry. And we believe in science. We have medication. We have treatments. We have to get people the help they need and stop grandstanding and trying to deny people access to healthcare. That's what makes me crazy. And Jerry Moran has lined up time and time again on behalf of pharmaceutical companies and on top of major corporations to simply deny healthcare to Americans. We're the only developed country in the world, the only one in the world that hasn't figured out how to distribute healthcare in a healthy, appropriate way.
Sounds like it's on purpose.
Donors.
Yeah. It's nuts. It's nuts.
It is. It's really mind-boggling where we are, especially when you start looking at other countries, modernly developed countries, and where they stand with healthcare. And then, you hear stories about friends that are, hey, I'm in Italy, and oh my gosh, I broke my arm, and I went in and paid $7, for my treatment. And we're like, what? How is that possible over here?
Most of us are one medical event away from being in poverty.
That's right.
So as you said, you're a third-generation pastor. Roe v. Wade has everyone's attention, and Jerry Moran has co-sponsored 75 different bills regarding restrictive health rights for women and issues similar to values them both. Would you vote to codify Roe, and how do you differ from your opponent on this issue?
The first bill I will co-sponsor in the U.S. Senate is to codify Roe v. Wade. I'll be the 51st vote. I, as a pastor, the reason I support Roe v. Wade is it's neutral. If you don't believe in abortion, you need not have one. but the rest of us can keep it safe, legal, and rare. That's what this is about. And I think as a pastor, I'm uniquely qualified to stand up for the separation of church and state. I don't want to push my views on you, but I sure don't want you pushing your views on me. And
Yeah.
I've done two long videos, long being 10 minutes. You know how hard it is for a preacher to get a video down to 10 minutes, man? It is
Yeah.
but
Yes, I do.
I have it on hollandforkansas.com. I have one long video that describes why I don't believe life begins at conception. That's a religious belief that most of us don't share. And I do a theological, biblical exploration as to why that's true. And then another long video that I talk about why I think this conversation about abortion has more to do with traditional roles of women than it has to do with when life begins. And the religious views about women, there are New Testament passages that if a community believes these three things, they're likely to oppose abortion. One is that a woman shall remain silent in the church, 1 Corinthians 14. The second is Ephesians 5, a woman shall obey her husband. Now, I'm just going to say from my experience, that's a losing argument. You can say you believe it or not. I'm just saying it's a loser, right? And then the third is that 2 Timothy, that a woman's salvation shall come through childbirth, which is a theologically indefensible position.
Sure.
But if you believe those three things, you're going to be against abortion in all cases, and you're even going to be against birth control. Birth control? I mean, friends, for real, this is what it is. These are religious views they're trying to impose on the rest of us. Jerry Moran took down the U.S. Supreme Court so that they could take down Roe v. Wade to enforce his religious views on the rest of us. He put $50,000 in to vote yes. And as you said, Caitlin, he sponsored 75 different bills. And then he stands on the floor of the U.S. Senate and says, Roe v. Wade has been a disaster for our country. Well, let me tell you what a disaster looks like. A 10-year-old girl raped in Ohio who has to flee her state for medical care. That's a disaster. A woman who's trying to get pregnant, who has a non-viable fetus in Louisiana, her doctors are afraid to treat her, risking her reproductive future and her life. Friends, that's a disaster. And then Idaho passed this crazy bill right after Roe v. Wade went down that says if a doctor saves a woman's life during pregnancy through abortion, it doesn't prevent them from being prosecuted. It just means that the doctor can use the evidence that they saved a woman's life in their defense trial. Friends, that's a disaster. And Jerry Moran did this. Jerry Moran has been an anti-choice crusader in this country, working to take away the rights of women repeatedly. And he cannot be trusted to go back to the U.S. Senate. And one last thing about this that I'll say is that this is, he has 100% approval with the National Right to Life group. 100%. Now, tell me this, how do you get 100% agreement across the dinner table? Right? 100%?
Well,
right. For an A-, right? I want 92%. But
right.
Look, he's got 100% approval. And the way you get that, because they sent me the survey, and you'll be pleased to know I recycled the survey because I don't believe in throwing paper in the trash. But it has a thing where you have to be willing to co-sponsor a bill for fetal personhood, which grants constitutional rights to a fetus at the point of conception. Friends, that's ridiculous. They just took away a woman's constitutional right to save her own life during pregnancy or to seek medical care when she's raped. But they're going to grant full constitutional rights to a fetus at the point of conception? It's outrageous.
Yeah.
And this is where Jerry Moran cannot be trusted to go back and do a national ban. A national ban on abortion would override vote no in Kansas, and it can't happen.
So do you think that there's a scenario where religion should dictate law? I'm probably the atheist on the show and have the hardest time with religion, but I'm very well versed biblically. I can tell you about Numbers 8:31 through 45 that talks about how a woman can have an abortion. I can tell you about we can get into it, but do you think that there's a scenario where it's okay for laws to be based off religion?
There are a lot of laws that we have that are laws that are shared across several religions, like thou shalt not kill, right? I mean, murder is against the law. Now there are caveat upon caveat upon caveat about first degree, second degree, etc., but of murder. But Yes, it is a religious view. It's both a Jewish and Christian value that you shouldn't kill. It's a Muslim value. So there are crossovers where some of our laws do reflect religious beliefs. The difference is we can't there has to be a consensus on a law that it's religious, that it's a shared religious belief, because and it comes back to liberty, individual liberty. You can't have, for instance, I'm a pastor. I'm a Christian pastor, and I would not want this to be a quote Christian nation, because I don't think. Well, I don't want the Presbyterians running the place, for crying out loud, right? I'm a Methodist, but we don't want one sectarian group to be running the country, like we see in other countries, right? You see other countries where women have to cover their head because of religious beliefs. And in Afghanistan, the religion was not able to convince the women to do it, so they had to have a law to do it. Well, let me just say this. If you need the government to enforce your religious rules, your religion's dead. Your religion's dead. If you can't persuade, and this is the thing about abortion and birth control. You know, the Catholic Church preaches against birth control and abortion, and so do the evangelical churches. Well, here's the reality. Catholic women and evangelical women are seeking abortion and birth control at the same rate as everybody else. They can't even convince their own members. So since they can't convince their own members, they can't convince everyone else. Then they're going to try to impose their beliefs on everyone else. And it actually has happened before, where a religious group pushes their rules. And it was the opening statement on your thing where the Mayor LaGuardia was talking about repealing the law for prohibition. Am I right?
Yeah.
So prohibition was brought to you by the Methodists. You can thank me later. But the Methodists decided that alcohol was wrong. Carrie Nation, the axe-wielding, bar-chopping woman, was a Methodist. But the Methodist Temperance Society was key behind pushing laws to force everyone to stop drinking because we didn't think it was good. Well, it was a disaster. Prohibition was a disaster. And ironically, you know who was against us? The Catholics were against us. But the Methodists had the political power to put prohibition in, and then we saw what a disaster was. It was a religious belief, and it came back out. I am pleased to say the Methodists no longer believe that, which is why when I was in Dodge City, I was able to go to the Boot Hill Distillery and pick up a bottle of their excellent bourbon. But there is the
so similarly, like with Reagan, the group that got Reagan elected were evangelicals, and then he went on to war on drugs.
Exactly.
It's a good playbook.
It is, and it's and there's correlations. I talk about this in my video. If you believe that the world was created in 6 days and the world was created in 1 day, the world's 6,000 years old. I believe in creation. I also believe in evolution. I believe God created the earth over 15 billion years. But if you believe that it was instantaneous, then you believe life begins instantaneously at conception. So there's correlations. It's not true everywhere, but there's strong correlation that people who have this religious belief that creation happens instantly, that life happens instantly. The rest of us tend to believe that it takes a process. It takes 9 months to make a life, right? It takes 15 billion years to make a livable planet. So there's a lot of, there's just differences in our theology, but there's correlations. And many, particularly evangelical Christians, are very anti-science. And you see the correlation of issues around the environment, issues around COVID, issues around when life begins. All of these are related to scientific discovery. And folks who are anti-science generally tend to want to impose those views on others. And my view is, if you think abortion's wrong, you should not have one.
Yeah.
The logic.
I know.
Hey, Chris. Chris is one of our biggest fans.
Yeah.
She stays up with us all the time. Thank you so much for being here, Chris. It's not really the idea of a religious person having control of things. It's just that theology, I think, being pushed down onto everybody, and how decisive things have been over the last few years. It's definitely come up in the forefront more, and we're seeing more and more laws with that. And people are slick with the tongue. Moran does talk a lot about being a centrist.
Woo!
That's a good one. Ooh. Tell me another one.
Yeah, and he is behind these. 75 bills co-sponsored to strip away women's rights. It's absolutely amazing, and and it goes deeper. There's a mass shooting in the United States pretty much every day. A gun was fired at school during dismissal. Was it just yesterday in the Kansas City area? What's gun reform, if anything, look like to you?
Well, Congress just passed about 2 months ago what I would describe as gun reform light. Right? It beefed up background checks. It helped with access to mental health care, to screening, common sense, normal things. Democrats voted for it. Moderate Republicans voted for it. Jerry Moran joined the extremists and voted against it. You'd be surprised to know the NRA is the big tobacco of our generation. They're not really concerned about people. They're more concerned about profits. And, Jerry Moran has joined the extremists on every count. There's a lot we can do. I look at guns similar to how I look at cars. If we ever got pulled over, and I know no one on camera right now has ever been pulled over.
Never.
If we're pulled over.
My mom's watching.
This is not a time for confessional right now. But if you were pulled over, they'd want to see your registration to see if that's your car, and they'd want to see your license to see if you have any business driving it.
Right.
That's completely reasonable. We don't only accept that, we expect it because we want drunk drivers off the streets, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we go through a little extra scrutiny to make sure our cities and our communities are safe. That's not unreasonable for guns. And this whole idea that we can't do background checks, we can't close loopholes on the internet, we can't, we can't regulate anything, is outrageous. And it's simply that, and we don't, I grew up hunting with my dad. I got my hunter safety card when I was 12, and had my rifle and my shotgun, and we went hunting with. Some of my best memories growing up with my dad were hunting. I'm not trying to take away anybody's guns, but friends, there's reasonable, common sense things we can do to make our communities safer. It's not rocket science, but we're so caught in this culture war of fighting over everything instead of sitting down and solving the problem. I want to sit down and solve some problems, and gun violence is something we need to address.
Yeah.
So I will. I'm of the belief that in the way that Mark speaks about the Second Amendment, or gun ownership. If our police forces and the people who enforce the laws have military-style weapons, we should not give up our arms. That's paraphrasing. And so I guess for me, I have to especially the gun discussion is one that I mull over all the time. I can see where I would love to look up what you're referencing, because I'd be interested to see. I usually get into the guts of the legislation just to find out really what it says. But so I guess my suggestions would want like, if we're talking about regulations, why aren't we regulating manufacturers rather than gun ownership for people who probably, I just watched this video the other day of a guy out in the wilderness in the areas that we live, because mountain lions exist and stuff, and he had to use a weapon to hurt, so like, we have absolutely these things for other things. And so for me, regulation would look like not allowing, overproduction of products, making it so accessible to have so many pieces and parts. Like, I get people are connoisseurs and stuff, and so I'm not into like all of those parts of the restriction, but like certainly if the NRA is who's benefiting the most here, why aren't we going after the way that they're profiting?
Well, and I think we can work backwards. Your neighbor cannot own a nuclear weapon, right?
Fair. Yeah.
You don't get to own a tank, right?
Sure.
That's the rules. You
Where are you
cannot
gonna put
own a grenade launcher. That's against the rules. Flamethrowers out. It'd be fun on the grill, but you could hurt somebody. So there's,
snow removal.
Yeah, exactly. We're working our way backwards. There's a limit to the kinds of weapons that every civil society agrees we can have and can't have, right? Yeah. The question then becomes, what's the line and who decides, right? We can't let Uncle Billy decide that he wants a tank. He doesn't get to decide that. Somebody else has to decide that.
Well, and the Second Amendment was pretty clear about who should do that by means of a well-regulated militia.
That's right. That's exactly right.
The far right is the king of cherry picking. They cherry pick their favorite parts of the Bible and use it against you, and they cherry pick the favorite parts of the Constitution and use it against you. They want to look at the shall not be infringed part, but forget about that. I would say you can own whatever weapon you want. You want a nuclear weapon? Absolutely. What militia is it going to be stored with? What measures are they using? And that way, if you want to go play with it or whatever, go get it. You got to sign it out, and we know that there was a nuclear missile missing or whatever. Obviously, that's an extreme example, but
right. Well, and this is the disconnect. People hate the government.
Mm-hmm.
Government this, the government that. Look, the school board is government. It's a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. I mean, it's a privilege. Anybody can run. Anybody can run for school board, and then the school board makes the decisions about the schools. But it's a contract. You know what? Most people don't want to do. Most people don't want to serve on the school board, and they're glad, right? And they're glad to have people who do. Right?
There's also the fire department, the EMTs. Yeah, we don't think of KDOT. I mean.
No, these are government functions. And so the question is, how big should the government be? We want less government. I want more effective government. I want government that functions. Yeah. And honestly, I don't care how big it is, as long as it works. But this talking point of we hate the government, who do they think the government is? Now, if you're in Russia and you don't get to vote for your leader and Putin's in charge forever, yeah, you don't have any say over that government. China, no say over the government. Every country in Europe, United States, every democracy, you get a say over who the government is. It's us. It's just normal people running the government. I mean, if you go to a city council meeting, you'll be surprised just how ordinary everybody is, right?
Yeah.
And the state house is no different. It's just normal people. And so we have this image of the government is taking over our lives, the government's. Friends, we live in a democracy that we actually get to choose who represents us. And we get to choose the values, and we get to be involved. But if you're checked out of the process, well, don't complain about the process. Get involved in the process. There's a political process where people run for office, they state their positions, and then you vote. And then whoever votes wins. And then you get mad about it, and 4 years later, you get to vote again. So I just get this disconnect with the government is the big concern, because we and the police officers. I mean, it's disrespectful to the police officers. They're part of the government. Thank God they are. Thank God the fire department's part of the government. Do we want privately run fire department that you only come if they pay?
No.
Your house is on fire. They're like, I need to see a credit card before we pull a hose, because we're not gonna save your family or put the fire out. You can't
Let's check your credit score, and I need 3 references.
Exactly. Tomorrow.
And one thing that you were talking about is we get to choose our elected officials. We're unaffiliated voters. We are independents. We have a very hard time with that phrase. We get to choose our elected officials because we do not. We are excluded from primaries, although the Democratic Party in Kansas has allowed independents to participate in their primary, and I believe the Republican side has as well. No, they have not.
You have to declare when you go to vote. That's the rule.
Yeah, so we feel that both parties are one bird, two wings. Right wing, your left wing, we're the same thing. So when we go to the booth, we often write in candidates. My mom, me, Zach, Mickey Mouse, whoever, or we no vote. We protest vote and we no vote. We won't vote for a Republican and we won't vote for a Democrat.
Yep.
You've mentioned racing across the aisle, working with both sides. What's your message to people like us that are tired of the two-party system controlling every aspect of our government?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. The nice thing about running for commissioner and mayor in Wyandotte County, and it's true for all of our municipal races, school board, et cetera, they're all nonpartisan, supposed to be nonpartisan.
Mm-hmm.
That you don't file. When I ran for mayor, I didn't file as a Democrat or Republican. I just ran as Mark Holland.
Mm-hmm.
And in Wyandotte, everybody that runs is a Democrat or is at least pretending to be. And probably in your area that runs is either a Republican or pretending to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's but you just run on your merits and what you want to do. And in the local government, it's better that it's nonpartisan. Again, there's no Democrat or Republican way to pave a street. Just do your job.
Right.
And that, to me, is probably the best of American democracy. The two-party system doesn't necessarily bring out the best candidates. It doesn't necessarily bring out the best in people. And so what we have now is a system where, unaffiliateds I imagine do feel left out. I'm more, I say I can work with people who are left or right of center. If you can't see the center from where you're standing, you might be standing in the wrong place. And I think most unaffiliateds are standing in the middle somewhere and are pretty sick of the rhetoric on both sides. Now, I can say that I'm partial to the Democratic Party in that we're not making up lies about the environment. We're not making up lies about the elections. We're not, all that stuff that's happening right now. And the moderate Republicans have been purged from the party. So the only moderates left who are running in either party are on the Democratic side. Certainly that's true in Kansas right now.
Yeah.
And, we had one independent run for U.S. Senate a few years ago, Greg Orman.
Yeah.
And actually the Democrats pulled our candidate off the ballot to give him a better chance. And so he came pretty close. I think he came within 10 points of Pat Roberts. But again, he had, it's that whole piece of, I'm not sold out for the Democratic Party. People ask me, are you going to be a Pelosi Democrat or a AOC Democrat? I'm like, and Jimmy Beard answers this the same way. In fact, I love Jimmy Beard's answer. He's like, I'm a Kansas Democrat, man. I don't care about any of the East or West Coast. I'm a Kansas Democrat, and we're going to stand up for Kansas. I think that's exactly right. Because a Kansas Democrat, you're either pretty moderate or you're left completely out, right? So
the two-party system just allows us to be dumb about it and just say, are you blue or are you red? What box do I check? That way I don't have to learn anything about you, and I don't have to have any consequences for voting for you. But and that's why they run campaigns like Vote Blue No Matter Who. But then they when they can't get something done and they can't accomplish anything, they're like, it's because Joe Manchin won't let us. And I was like, yeah, but you said vote blue no matter who. What the hell? If I would have bothered to educate myself about who Joe Manchin was, I would have saw that he has massive oil donations and his family is bought and paid for.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's an excellent point. I would say, no matter who, no way. Character matters to me. I mean, that's the thing that.
Me too.
That's why I think the whole selling out for Trump. If Donald Trump's leading your Christian nation, that's like asking an arsonist to run your fire department. Character matters.
I would love to say thank you for the legwork that you're doing, like informing people about where you stand. That stands out the most to me. Like, I learned of you very gradually and did vote for you because of the Vote No Matter, and then learned more that I liked. And so I hope that enough people all over Kansas get to see you and at least acknowledge that you're back. Like, I say back too, because there have been years where people are winning this game based on their last name, based on the clout that they have with the in circle, and so like, goodness, the Biden election was just there. I don't remember like anyone actually speaking about platform points. It was just the noise. So I want to encourage voters. Again, there are amendment issues on this ballot. So come out and think hard about who you're voting for, because if you're just voting for Jerry Moran because he's been there, or because you know his name, or because you shook his hand at one of those clubs that he only goes to, have done. I hope they feel like they have enough time to continue to learn what you're speaking about, and that Jerry Moran offers nothing and continues to damage Kansans. So like that's to move on, what steps has your opponent taken to combat climate change, and how do you propose protecting our environment, farmers, families, future generations?
Yeah, he's in full-scale denial. I mean, he doesn't have any interest in climate change. He's never voted for anything supporting green energy. And it's caught in this culture war between, well, we have to protect our economy. Well, it's a false dichotomy. Of course, we can grow our economy and protect our environment. But the environmental issues are real, and it comes back to believing in science. My faith tradition says this earth is ours to be stewards of. It's not a disposable rental that's going to pop out of the sky in a few more years. We need to plan to be here long term, and we need to set an example for our children and grandchildren. We need to stop acting like teenagers with the parents out of town. So we have to protect our environment, and there's a lot we can do in order to grow our economy while we're doing it. Green energy is the future, and it's great jobs and great opportunities. And if we want to get out from under the oil company, why are gas prices going up again right now? Because OPEC, monarchs, and not the Kansas City Monarchs, I like them, but actual kings in Saudi Arabia and Putin decided to cut the supply to manipulate our prices. Friends, energy independence is not just drilling every drop of oil out of our country. The price of oil is set globally. We've got to get out of that business. The price of electricity is not set globally, it's set in America. And so green energy is the key to how we move forward as a country. And it's the right thing to do. It's a great job. So yeah, I think this dichotomy of we can't take care of the environment is ridiculous. We don't have to tell people in western Kansas that it's getting hotter and drier.
No.
People can figure that out for themselves. And the lie that's being told is that, well, it's cyclical. This is just the way it happens. Well, the scientists say that's not true, and we should listen to them. And we also know we can mitigate the damage that we're doing, and we should do it immediately. So that's I'm passionate about this issue, and we're one election away. Think about this. We're one election away from fundamentally changing the priorities in this country.
Yeah. From
being devoted to the oil company profits and being devoted to green energy and a new future. And that election is now. All we need are people in Congress who believe in science. That's the future.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Look, Mark, we've had such a great conversation with you tonight. How do folks find your campaign? How do they get a hold of you?
HollandForKansas.com. It's Holland for Kansas all spelled out. It's right there on my name. Can you see it? HollandForKansas.com. Yeah. So reach out to Holland for Kansas. I'm on Twitter, and it Holland for Kansas with a 4. And on my Twitter handle, I'm also on Facebook, Instagram. I wanted to be on TikTok, but I was warned not to go on TikTok because I'm too old. I would embarrass myself and become a meme. And, whatever content we have, people are welcome to put on TikTok for us. But you're not going to see me doing any lip sync or anything.
Oh, bummer.
My 16-year-old daughter is the queen of that, so we'll let her keep doing that.
I was like, I do not have a TikTok either, but I will spend an ungodly amount of time on YouTube in the shorts rewatching TikTok videos. That's how I...
That's right. Nothing wrong with that. So so HollandForKansas.com. Really appreciate any outreach. Folks, here's the math. If the crowd that came out for Vote No comes back out, we win all these races. And we move forward with women's rights, we move forward with the environment, we move forward with common sense. If the Vote No group stays home, we're just stuck in the status quo of 70-year-old men making decisions for women's bodies, and that's inexcusable.
Yeah.
So that's what's at stake, and I would just encourage folks to come back out and vote. A national ban overrides whatever we did in Kansas.
Yeah.
We've got to come back out and vote again.
Absolutely.
And we have a great opportunity. We have a great country. We have a great democracy. Despite all the shenanigans and all the things, there's nowhere I'd rather live.
I did want to ask you, campaigning across the state right now, are you still seeing that energy?
Yes.
From August 2nd? Is that energy still there with younger kids and women. And
I'm going to say there's only one issue in Kansas right now. You can talk about the price of gas. You can talk about the price of groceries. You can talk about health care. Abortion is health care. Let's remember that. But there's only one issue that's animating people. There's only one thing that's motivating people. And it's this, the government trying to get in our business. You know, and Reverend Raphael Warnock, who's the senator in Georgia, says it this way: there's no room in the consulting room for the woman, her doctor, and the government. And I don't care if it's the federal government or the state government, there's no room for the government in that consultation room. And the energy around that is palpable, whether it's folks are coming from a libertarian perspective or from a Democrat perspective. We need to know Jerry Moran's trying to impose his religious views on us, and we should say no. We should say no. And we need to say no again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So we got to come back.
Before we let you loose, did we miss anything? Final thought that you'd like to offer us?
No, I'm committed to this. I have 5 more stadiums to see every Major League Baseball stadium in America, and so I'm committed to that.
Yes.
And you did not ask me about baseball, and I'm sad about that.
Well,
I'm also concerned. I was out in Garden City, and I saw people with Broncos gear.
Yeah, I know.
And I just thought this needs to be part of. As U.S. Senator, I feel like I need to address that.
I think they're not.
They all have to
from
go
here,
there for the legal cannabis.
Yeah.
Well, I will say I do support legalizing cannabis, and I do support decriminalizing this. So we didn't talk much about that, but it needs to be treated like alcohol instead of like crack cocaine.
You know, it's a huge issue. It's embarrassing. Kansas is probably going to be the very last state to have laws that help people that need it medically.
People
more
are
than
moving
anything.
Out of our state because of
they're refugees.
Needs, so like it's definitely.
You know it's bad when Missouri's ahead of us on something.
Yes.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's humiliating.
Well, Mark,
it's like our politicians hate money. You know, we're just hemorrhaging money at every possible avenue.
We can't fund education, but we're gonna put people in jail. You know, for a plant.
It's nuts.
Yeah. Well, Reverend Holland, I feel like we could go another 3 or 4 hours. We're just getting warmed up here. Thank you so much time to stop by here, visit with us, your constituents, and our viewers. Yeah.
I'm honored to have the opportunity to talk with you all. I'm honored to have I had a great time when I was out in Garden City.
Good.
Look forward to coming back soon. And just honored to have an opportunity to visit with you, hear your concerns, the things that are animating you. And this is the fact. We couldn't live further from one another in Kansas. We're about as far apart as we can get. But folks, we have so much in common. The stuff that's holding us together is more important than all these divisions. We've got to get back to that because that's exciting and that's the best of who we can be. And I want to make this country the best of who we can be. So thank you for the opportunity to talk with you tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Reverend Mark Holland, everybody. Again, we want to thank him for stopping by the show here tonight. Oh man, what a great interview. He did awesome. I thought we did awesome for our first night back after a month. You know, again, guys, I want to remind you, we're not professionals. We're not experts. We didn't go to school for this. We shouldn't have to do this. But we're here because you're here. And Western Kansas does not have any type of political news talk jargon other than what you get out of the mainstream media. So we're so happy that you've joined us here tonight. We'll be back next week. Who do we have next week, Zach? Who's coming up? Attorney General Chris Mann will be here. Yeah, absolutely. That's going to be a good one. He's running against a career. Is he a career candidate? I mean, he's won one before.
He's a douchebag.
The dreadful.
I was like, what is that?
Chris Kobach. We have to talk about him again, but we're excited to have Chris Mann here to talk about how he's going to keep Chris Kobach out of office, hopefully. And that's my opinion. But again,
we'll amaze the country again, Kansas.
Yeah, let's just blow it away and go
voting.
Completely no Republican. You know, that'd be kind of crazy, you know, for a blood red state that we are. Wouldn't it be crazy? I think that'd be crazy. Quick shout out to our producers, Brian B. Real and What the Tuck, Tucker Schiffelbein. We're so happy that they were able to join us tonight. These guys keep the show running smooth and easy. We did have some technical difficulties tonight, but we'll get it. We're going to get this down. We'll look like, something you'd see on HBO or something.
Oh, I don't know, man.
We need way more funding.
We can wish for that.
Way more funding.
The
yeah,
day we can start CGing some dragons in this shit. Well, that's what.
Yeah, we'll get George R.R. Martin on the show, possibly, when we can CGI dragons. Absolutely. Well, everybody, thank you so much. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Well. Yeah, test. Better. We'll take a minute to envision it, in the wisdom deriving from a difference of opinion. Inquisitive, isn't it? When the picture in the mirror isn't shit, but give it a minute, fix this image and hit the bricks with the viciousness. But don't play, cause one day you'll be saying, you shoulda, coulda, woulda, but my shit just wouldn't drop, cause you wouldn't have, but you're so worried, it was your world. When you hit them with the rhymes, they had no words. Just come back to the flip of the tongue fun that you once had and chug it like a beer and crush that. Go shave your mustache and write it down, cut that, and show 'em what's rap again. Oh, I'm getting tired of that. I don't know anymore what they call that. Getting so you know that something's missing. Let's go show 'em what rap is again. Like taking a step out of your front door for the first time and you want more with the sunshine, but you've been locked away, forgetting you don't care. Listen, is not part of the mission. Just say what you got to say. Whether it makes sense, just to put you to the wrist, spit from the hips, slipping so sharp, or splitting your lip. You get a grip, cause as good as your shit is, you know it really isn't a big deal. Cause it'll turn heads bound too. It's your purpose, round two. But you gotta open your eyes and realize it's right here. But to open your mind, you gotta try to fight fear and find a light bright enough to ignite and excite peers. But get their attention, I find. You gotta give them a big boom. You're the fuel, and I got my lighter right here. Oh, I'm getting tired of that. I don't know anymore what they call rap. Getting so you know that something's missing. Let's go show 'em what rap is again.